Opinions and statements of those appearing on Local Pulse are those of the show's participants and not necessarily those of the Daily News of Newburyport, its parent companies, or affiliates. It's time for Local Pulse from the newsroom of the Daily News of Newburyport. Timely, unfiltered, informed. Local Pulse with Joe DBAs. News, views, arts, and food from the source for area news and information. Local Pulse and the Newburyport Daily News. Now, Local Pulse.
Good morning. My name is Joe DBAs. You're listening to, and maybe even watching, Local Pulse from the newsroom of the Daily News of Newburyport. We've got Pete Finn out there learning all the new tech.
Good morning.
How are you, Pete?
I'm doing great. I am now officially a video producer.
You are. We all are.
I think there's a union for that.
Today is June 13th, 2026. It's show number 587. And this is our second episode where we're streaming live audio and video. It's a new thing for us. We've been talking about it for a number of years, but we finally pulled the trigger and we're doing video. If you're watching us already, you know we're available on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and that's where you can watch it live. How was your week, Pete?
It was good. It was very good. Today I'm going to run the Flag Day 5K, the Derek Hines 5K. It's a great event.
It is a great event.
Yeah. So if you go down to Cashman today, you'll see all the stage set up and all the booths and, everything ready for this event. They're going to get about over 1,000 runners.
Wow. Oh,
yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun to run it every year.
They have a lot going on at Cashman, you said.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So everything's being set up now. The race is at 4, and then after that, it's like a big party. And, I hope to improve my time, but every year my time never improves, so it's always around the same.
I can guarantee you that your time would be better than mine.
Okay. All right.
We have a great show today. In just a moment, we're going to be talking with David Yang, the music director of the Newburyport Chamber Music Festival, which is celebrating its 25th year. I can't believe that. And after that, we'll be talking with Newburyport Ward 5 City Councilor Lisa Medina Smith. Pete, I already mentioned that people can watch
YouTube
us.
And Facebook Live.
Facebook page. There may be other media outlets that we'll be streaming to as well, but right now it's just Facebook, the Facebook page, and YouTube channel. Anything else that we need to mention?
I don't think so. Just tune in and watch.
Exactly. All right. Right now, I would like to welcome back, after a little bit of an absence in the last couple of years, but always in our hearts, David Yang from the Newburyport Chamber Music Festival. David, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Oh, okay. I can see you. We can't hear you.
How's this? Is that better? Yeah.
Let's see. Is your mic shared? All right, we can see David.
Can you hear me?
Can't hear him though. Oh, wait a minute. No, you can't hear me. Bear with me. This is my fault.
I mean,
can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me. All right.
It's the new technology that I can't get used to. I don't need this microphone.
Well,
how are you, David?
I have to show you. So this is my phone. This is my phone. The fact that we're doing this at all is kind of a miracle.
So I did notice in your email signature that you give your cell phone number and it says no text.
I don't text. Yeah. So I want to be a member of the school of radical attention. Yeah. I mean, look, I think most people, probably everyone, is fine with texting. I just find it doesn't make my life better. I'm kind of constantly, I'd be someone who's constantly checking his phone all the time and wondering and not really present. So just for me, other people, my daughters do it, and obviously 99.99% of humanity does it, but just doesn't quite work for me.
Well, somebody with is your viola 200 years old? Do I remember that correctly?
370 years old.
300. So yes. So I can understand why you might not text. You're living in a different era.
Well, it was cutting edge technology back in 1600 and something. So, but actually, I want to mention. So, Pete's got this 5K today. Is that right?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Pete was just saying he's got a 5K he's doing today.
He does. Yes, he has a 5K,
So
and
we just my girlfriend and I, as a fundraiser, it's closed now, but we biked up from Philadelphia to Newburyport 2 weeks ago, just under 500 miles.
that's quite a bike ride.
Yeah, and it was amazing. And there's this whole separate, this like separate reality when we got in about 20 miles or 30 miles from Newburyport and started to hit roads that I actually knew. Um, there was this incredible sense that just holy cow, I I just biked up here, uh, over a week. And this great sense of relief also, of course, that we're finally at my second home there, but just this deeply gratifying sense of accomplishment also.
Had you ever done anything like that before?
Not that long, you know basically we did 480, I think 481 miles. uh, I've done half that much, but yeah, that was something. And it was that terrible week with it was just pissing rain for 4 days and mud and
Oh,
everything.
oh.
But you're doing it with someone that you care about, and it was just really wonderful. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Newburyport Chamber Music Festival for a bit, which is why you're here. Tell us, you're the music director,
I'm the artistic director.
artistic director.
Makes me very artistic, right?
Okay, and you're celebrating 25th year.
25 years, yeah. My younger daughter wasn't even born when we started this thing. And yeah, it's just crazy to think of doing anything for that long. And the festival's been hugely successful, and we've developed this real core audience, which is expanding all the time. And for this year, it decided to really go kind of all out, and we've got more musicians than we've ever had before, and that's not going to be the default. But I just wanted to really have this huge kind of celebration. We've got a soprano coming from the Metropolitan Opera. We're doing a new piece by this Pulitzer Prize winning composer. We're doing octets, which is the first time I've ever done that at Newburyport, where we have actually 8 musicians, a double string quartet coming together. And there's new music, commissions. There's old music, Mendelssohn, and then kind of newish, oldish music, Shostakovich, and then old, Haydn. So there's a little something for everyone. And just the whole idea is that we're going to do this, all these concerts, and it's all about kind of community and celebrating people, and open rehearsals all around town, which is what we always do, and then free storytelling and children's concerts, these readings. We're going to do something, a salon, where we'll be performing a little bit, but we'll also be interviewing some of the artists. And yeah, it's kind of going to be, I think, I mean, I'm biased, of course, but just a really amazing summer, and kind of a celebration of music, and for me, a kind of celebration of Newburyport, and kind of the love I feel for your town, which I'm just a guest, but I've been a guest since 1992. I've been coming there. So
Wow. So tickets go on sale next week. Am I correct?
I think so. Yeah, I should know exactly, but I believe it's Friday. think they go on sale next Friday. Yeah.
All right. And when does the festival happen?
It's right after Yankee Homecoming. We don't want to overlap with Yankee Homecoming because uh, that would be kind of cultural suicide, right? um, yeah, it's basically, I think it starts around the 6th or the 7th of August and it runs until around the 15th. So that's about a week and a half towards the beginning of August.
All right. So we always talk about this, but until I knew you, I didn't really understand what chamber music is. Why don't we talk about what chamber music is and what people can expect if they do go to any of the events?
I mean, chamber music, the really broad definition is chamber music is a small group of people getting together to make music. So, as far as I'm concerned, the Beatles is chamber music, uh, REM is chamber music, trio sonatas by Bach from 1650. No, well, he hadn't been born yet. Sorry, 1725 would be chamber music, but a Beethoven string quartet is chamber music. Uh, a piece by George Crumb from 2010 is chamber music. Um, so the requirements for chamber music would be it's one person on a part. So it's not an orchestra where you have multiple people on a part. And also it's kind of an attitude where every person has a really, it's kind of, I won't say that everyone has a solo necessarily, but everyone's part is integral. I talk about it kind of like an arch, right? Every stone is important. Whereas an orchestra, look, if you got 15 first violinists, and if two of them drop dead and back, you might not even notice, right? But you know, Ringo Starr, you know, God love him for all his eccentricities, and you know, as the kind of the fourth Beatle there, he was absolutely essential to the group, and you'd notice immediately if he's not there. And it's the same thing in a Beethoven quartet. You need all four people. All four people are contributing uniquely in their own way. And sometimes, you know, as a violist, I don't have as many solos generally as the first violinist. But a lot of times I'll be kind of the rhythm section, just setting down a pulse. And I might have two notes that I need to bring out, and then I need to kind of recede into the background. But without those two notes, you'd be like, hey, what happened there? And it can be in this, you know, it's generally in a smaller room is how it developed. But of course, you've got the Tokyo String Quartet playing in Carnegie Hall and things like that. So it's more, in some ways, it's almost more an attitude and a process than a specific thing necessarily. But again, at the core, it's one person on a part, and it can be in St. Paul's, it can be in a garage, and it can be in Lincoln Center. Still chamber music.
And there are a number of venues where you'll be playing. Some are ticketed, and like you said, there are open rehearsals as well, correct?
Yeah, there are open rehearsals all around town. I can't remember all the locations. I think we might be doing one in Jabberwocky, maybe something in a Loom bookstore. We've played in a lot of the cafes around town. We've played in Chococo. We played many times in that crepe place on Pleasant Street, which doesn't exist anymore. Just the idea, you know, we'll come in and we play in the library, and people get to see the process and how things work, and just how people put music together, because there's this kind of mystery of you know, these performers come up and they're playing some complicated work maybe, and it's like, how do you make music, and you know, how does this magic happen? But in some ways it's very, I don't want to say banal, but you know, it's a very, there's a technical aspect to the process. Okay, we need to play here, we need to balance the sounds, we need to play in tune. But then, you know, what's the music? What are we trying to say here? You know, one person's like, oh, I see this this section feels kind of angry, and then someone might be like, well, I think it's maybe more ironic or maybe more sarcastic, and what does that mean, and how do you manifest this kind of feeling in music, which is by its nature abstract? Like, what makes music sound happy, or what makes it sound sad, right? You could say, oh, a major key, a minor key, but it's not that simple, because some of the saddest music I know is actually in a major key, right? So what kind of sound? You want kind of a covered sound, or you want a kind of very direct, incisive sound? And these conversations, people will come to the open rehearsals and they'll see us working this out, and sometimes disagreeing and arriving at a conclusion. I mean, in many ways, to me, chamber music, in its purest sense, is really democracy in its kind of purest form, right? You've got four people who have to come to some agreement, some consensus, and there's often compromise. And there has to be compromise, because otherwise, if one person just comes and says, my way or the highway, then pretty soon it's going to be like, yeah, I don't want to work with you anymore. So
Is that person's name Yoko?
Yeah, I think that would be about right. But she wasn't even part of the group, and she's
No,
coming
she wasn't.
and just like, giving her 2 bits, and it's like, wait, go away. What are you doing here in your leopard print, bodysuit or whatever. So yeah, to me, it's just one of the most wonderful things a human being can do, because it's so utterly, in some levels, it's utterly impractical. What are we doing? 4 people get together and they're making music. Well, from a capitalistic point of view, it's like, well, what are you doing? What are you producing? Are you making anything? Are you making money? Well, possibly not. How are you contributing to society in terms of building anything? Well, we are, but it's nothing. Just like music is abstract, it's nothing that you can't put a price on this. It's like capitalist society wants to, everything has to be worth something, right? How many widgets did you make? I'm showing my politics here, right? But things like motherhood, right? And or parenthood, right? It's so important, but you can't put a price on that. And music, it's so, there's this great quote from Wynton Marsalis, and he says, look, you don't need music to live. All you need some food and some water, and that's it. But then he's like, you don't need a bed to live. Even food, you could just eat. You could just get some. You could eat some nutrition pellets and vitamins and get a little fiber, right?
But we're talking quality of life now. What kind of life is that?
Right.
And I was up in New Hampshire yesterday, at the Courier Museum, where they own 2 Frank Lloyd Wright houses.
Mm.
Now, do people need to live in a Frank Lloyd Wright house? No. A lean-to can provide enough shelter for a lot of people, but what kind of life is that? And we as humans have the capacity to make art and architecture and music. I have no capacity to do any of those things, but it elevates life. It makes life better. It raises us up.
I think it's what makes it human, actually.
Exactly. So you mentioned that your viola is 370 years old. What's the difference between a 370-year-old viola and one that was made in 2026?
It sounds like you're setting me up for a viola joke here, right?
No, I don't know any viola jokes.
Well, there are many. It's like, what's the difference between a violin and a viola? Well, a viola burns longer. Things like that. Look, there are great modern instruments, and there are really crappy old instruments. Just because it's old doesn't make it any better. This instrument, on the other hand, has whole a whole depth of. I mean, geez, it's a really good question. I've never been asked that directly. Uh, it, I'm not actually I'm not a I'm not a wine guy, but I can imagine the analogy would work if one were. Like, what's the difference between a $250 bottle of Pinot Noir and something you buy for $8 in a cardboard carton, you know, at at what's the Black Duck or whatever it is, right? Um, there's a whole depth of sound and expression that you can do. You can reach further and further down into this instrument, um, and you can just do things that you can't. You can make sounds that you can't do with an instrument that isn't as good as this. And some instruments just take time also to develop. I don't know how this viola sounded in 1670. And when it was new, it might have been like, yeah, meh. But whatever has happened over the last few hundred years, it's really acquired great, this great depth of of, of sound. Um, and also, it just it it might even be something also intangible that I might play it differently in my mind because I know it's this great instrument that it's got this long history and it belonged to this great master in the 19th century. And you've got, I mean, I don't feel like I own it. I do actually own it, but really I'm kind of
A steward. You're a steward of.
very much, because after I'm dead, I'm hoping that this instrument has, it's. I'm not like one of these Egyptian pharaohs. I don't want to be buried with this instrument. I hope that it goes on to have a long, long life of its own after I'm dust.
I just saw an article recently where there was some kind of scientific study where the way a pianist touches the keys varies from pianist to pianist, and it changes with the same key, changes the sound and the timbre and the tone of that particular note. And I imagine with an older instrument like you have compared to a newer one or an older one that's, as you say, crappy, those are different, and you may play it differently than someone that you would hand it to, who's as accomplished but plays it differently.
Yeah, well, very much. I mean, it took me. This instrument in particular I describe its personality as recalcitrant. It's kind of stubborn, obstinate, and by that I mean very specifically, there's some instruments that I've picked up, and you can just play them, and it's so easy to play. Uh, this instrument is not an easy instrument to play. You need a very specific technique to draw a sound out of it, or otherwise it just kind of chokes. Um, and it took me a while to learn how to play this specific instrument. Um, and yeah, again, some instruments are very quick. You pick them up immediately. It's like, oh, that's great, but it might not have the same depth uh, of presence that this one has.
This may sound like an inarticulate analogy, but several years ago I moved from aluminum clad cookware to stainless steel. And it took me a while to get used to cooking in the stainless steel pans as opposed to my old Calphalon aluminum clad. We're getting way off topic. The Newburyport Chamber Music Festival is happening after Yankee Homecoming in August. Tickets go on sale next week. You can go to newburyportchambermusic.org for all of the information about the Chamber Music Festival. I have one question about a particular venue. Are you doing any house music this year?
We're doing two house musics, which are what those are is basically sight reading parties. The analogy would be like a table reading for actors. So we show
It's a
up.
jam session.
It's a jam session. I've got a pile of music which I strew all over the floor. Different composers: Beethoven, Mozart, Shostakovich, Bartok. And we go to the audience and say, "What do you want to hear?" And someone says, "Play some Beethoven." We're like, "Okay." And we just pick up some Beethoven and we play. And sometimes we mess up, or musicians even get lost. And oddly, that always seems to be people's favorite thing. I don't understand it. Like, we work so hard to do these concerts, and people will then pay money to hear us play completely unprepared. So I'm like, all right,
All right. It's the Newburyport Chamber Music Festival celebrating its 25th year. I highly recommend going to one of the open auditions or one of the paid events, because it really, I wouldn't say I'm a chamber music fan, but I thoroughly enjoy it every time I go. It's it's something in many ways otherworldly from what I'm used to. I listen to jazz and classic rock mostly, so it's different from. I'm sorry.
as do I. Yeah.
Oh. So go to newburyportchambermusic.org for more information. Tickets go on sale, I believe, next week. We're not quite sure, but
And most of the big concerts are all pay what you can. So you can show up and give a buck,
oh, very good, excellent. It's a lot of fun. We're looking forward to seeing you back up here in Newburyport. I hope you're driving this time and not riding your bike,
Yeah, drive.
because seeing you with your viola strapped to your back on your bike would not be good.
No, not advised. So
All right, David Yang, thank you so much. Thanks for being the inaugural remote video guest that we've had on Local Pulse. This is all new technology for us, and I think we figured it out.
yeah, I think so. I hope so. I guess we'll find out. So
We will. We will. All right. Thanks so much. We'll be right back with Newburyport Ward 5 City Councilor Lisa Medina Smith from the newsroom of the Daily News of Newburyport right here on Local Pulse. Thanks, David.
Today's Saturday, June 13th. I'm Pete Finn, and here's this week's calendar of events from the newsroom of the Daily News of Newburyport and Local Pulse. The Newburyport Farmers Market happens Sundays, rain or shine, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Tannery Marketplace parking lot on Water Street. Come and enjoy all the market has to offer. Old favorite vendors are returning, and new vendors will be there. Veggies, meats, dairy products, baked goods, snacks, and more will be available, with music by Tim Beer. Go to the newburyportfarmersmarket.org for more information and to sign up for the Farmers Market newsletter. The Newburyport Public Library will be closed June 19th through June 21st, so there's no movie matinee next Friday. But be sure to come to the library on Thursday, June 18th for drop-in tech time. If you're having trouble with your phone, laptop, computer, or e-reader such as Kindle, bring your simple technology questions for a drop-in session to let library staff help with the basics. Sessions can last up to 30 minutes and will be run with available staff on a first-come, first-served basis. Don't forget to bring your chargers and pertinent usernames and passwords. Contact info@newburyportpl.org or call at 978-465-4428, extension 2 with questions. More information about this and all that's happening at the library is available at www.newburyportpl.org. The Central Congregational Church Community Breakfast is back, Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pull up to the table or request your meal for takeout. Breakfast is always free and everyone is welcome. Volunteers serve a delicious meal every Saturday. The Central Congregational Church is located at 14 Titcomb Street, Newburyport. For more information about donating to support the program, volunteering to help, or other questions, contact the church office at info@centralnewburyport.org or call 978-465-0533. Join the Baby and Me group at Anna Jakes Hospital Thursdays 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. This free support group is for all birthing parents in the community. Get answers along your parenting journey. Give others encouragement and advice as you navigate this path together. We discuss all aspects of parenting. Guest speakers will occasionally present on a variety of topics, such as behavioral health topics, car seat safety, infant nutrition, infant growth, and development. The group meetings are held by a birth center, lactation consultant, and registered nurse. Registration is not required, and these groups are free to anyone in the community. The Baby and Me group meets at the Morse Meeting Room at Anna Jakes Hospital, 25 Highland Ave in Newburyport. Go to ajh.org for details and more information. That's this week's calendar of events from the newsroom of the Daily News of Newburyport and Local Pulse. If your organization or nonprofit has an upcoming event that you'd like mentioned on Local Pulse, send an email at least 2 weeks in advance to calendar@localpulseradio.com.
And we're back on Local Pulse. My name's Joe DBAs. We've got Pete Finn out there running audio and video.
We did it. I just want to remind people I was not a video producer 45 minutes ago. Now I am.
And we're glad to make you a video producer, Pete. Right now, I would like to welcome Lisa Medina Smith. She is the Newburyport Ward 5 City Councilor. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming in. This is the first time you've been here as a councilor.
That's right.
So what we like to do with new councilors is talk about their committee assignments and what that work entails. So you're on Public Works and Safety.
Yes.
What is that?
So Public Works and Safety, as the name describes, covers a lot of our public safety functions, so fire, police, harbor, harbor master, and it also covers our corridors and anything that impacts any accessibility or sidewalks, so that basically a lot of the things that in terms of your core services that touch our residents is what Public Works and Safety covers. So at the beginning of the year, a lot of our work was focused on snow and ice, and that is something that we kind of immediately as I started my term was very top of mind. So a lot of our focus is about how do we approach enforcement, how do we enforce the differing responsibilities between snow and ice, between residents, commercial properties, city, and MassDOT, since we have a mix of ownership there. More recently, we've been discussing matters on streets and sidewalk. The 2026 Streets and Sidewalk Plan was just released. So we had a conversation about the current priorities and also around how that's going to evolve over time. We have the planning office, Jordan Vining, is taking over the Streets and Sidewalk Plan. So we're revisiting the prioritization criteria around that. So we had a pretty recent conversation regarding how do we approach this differently? How do we leverage some of the new data that the city's collecting? They're going to be, or they have contracted a LiDAR data collection around for all of our streets and sidewalks to be able to use that condition as one factor. We also need to figure out
How are they going to implement LiDAR and use that to analyze streets and sidewalks?
So they contracted a third party called Civil. And basically for streets and sidewalks, they are able to collect the condition of the roads and probably in, I believe it's 30-foot segments. And then within those conditions, there will be different, the LiDAR is capable of doing different LiDAR labels like potholes or some other condition assessment. And then on the sidewalk side, we're also able to, do poor, fair, or good in terms of that classifications. And then we can use that to kind of understand the holistic view of a given corridor and see if we want to prioritize the whole thing or a part of it. But that's just one of the factors. We also need to consider safety, different users. And so we're having a lot more conversation on how do we use all of these different inputs to make a decision.
Why is the streets and sidewalks plan moving from DPS to planning? Why is that happening?
So a lot of it is because we want to add a lot more resident feedback as part of that process, add a project management lens to it so that we are using that revised prioritization criteria. So I think this also, I still continue to think it'll be more of a dotted line relationship with DPS. DPS still owns the execution as part of the highway division, but it's really around partnership between the two departments.
Okay. The other committee that you're on is licenses and permits.
Yes.
What is licenses and permits?
Yeah. So A lot of that work is around block parties, special events, and applications. It also covers our Parklet program, and that's been, we just finished that. And so the Parklet program has been in place since COVID, so it's been about 6 years. So we've been through a number of application cycles, and we've learned a lot. So I would say we have a pretty steady stream of applications with the summer approaching us. So I would say the bulk of the work is around that. And like other committees, we also grant, for the volunteer boards. We're also looking at those appointments for like the licensing commission, for example. But the parklets is pretty interesting because it's granting use of a public space. Sometimes it's a parking area, sometimes it's a sidewalk area, sometimes it's a kind of just alleyway, depending on which restaurant you're referring to. And so I think it's well loved by the residents, but I think one thing we need to take a look at on whether or not the current model is something the city can sustain, particularly around DPS owning some of the execution work around the install and removal of the parklets. So that's something we're going to be looking at after we wrap up budget season around how we can kind of revisit that model so we can still maintain the parklet program, but also kind of are considering the impact to our city services since DPS has a number of things to prioritize.
So the restaurants do pay a fee for the use of the public space and the platforms that are used for some of the parklets. Those, I imagine, are approaching the end of life, maybe need for replacement. Is that correct?
Yes, there's a large portion of them that either need replacement or repair. So that's also a consideration in terms of how much of that should be owned by the city versus kind of the restaurant. If there were, we kind of can shift from owning the install and the I would say asset management of these parklets to having the restaurant apply for use of public space.
So that's going to be reviewed, including the fee structure that the restaurants pay for.
Yes, so that's something we'll have a framework coming in after budget season wraps up, after we can collect additional feedback from DPS, et cetera.
I think I detected some controversy around some of the use in Market Square.
Yes.
By, is it La Rosa's?
La Rosa's, yes.
Talk about that for a minute. There was removal of a couple of benches.
Yes, and that's something we definitely need to discuss, especially as we think about leasing a public way. So during COVID, there was a bench removed. It was a memorial bench, and it's in process of being repaired and identifying a location, whether it's in that previous location or another location. So there was a lot of concern around continuing to encroach on a public space, especially given the overlap of where the bench was and where this space is today. So that's where I think this controversy isn't unique to this year. I think this was also a concern in previous years since it's been persisting. But that's something we need to consider as we look at this moving forward. It's around kind of looking at the overall use of the public spaces and making sure that we can accommodate both what was there, what we want to be there, and all that moving forward.
Okay. We're going to get to budget in a minute.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about some of the projects that you're involved in Story Ave.
Yep.
There's a visioning plan going on for Story Ave. The use of the word villages, like the Story Ave village, has kind of come into vogue. What's happening on Story Ave and what is planning looking to do about that?
Yeah, so we received a grant a few years ago around a feasibility study or a visioning study around the Story Ave corridor. So that covers basically the Port Plaza area all the way to C&J, or where what previously was C&J, I guess.
The old park and ride.
Yeah, we all know what I'm talking about. But and kind of also where Haji's is and a little bit further down.
Okay.
That's the full study area. And what we're doing there is there's a series of public meetings that we're having with residents to gather their feedback and ultimately inform zoning changes we want to make to that corridor so we can shape what we want that space to look like in the future. So there will be 3 public meetings. One has already taken place. We had one in May with, I would say, 125 residents. We've packed the senior
That's
center.
Amazing that 125 people showed up.
Yes. Well, it was no accident, I would say.
Okay.
So we took a very, I would say, cross-functional marketing approach to that. So we did flyers on all of the neighboring kind of neighborhoods in that study area. We advertised it in social media. We had email blasts from the city. And then we also had those signs at the Little River Trail and Three Roads that were advertising the meeting, so we could really get the word of mouth out there. We were at the beginning of this project, we were told we should expect around 40 people, and we're like, challenge accepted. let's pack the room. And so we got a really great showing, and we were almost over capacity, I would say. We filled all our tables. We had an extra section for some of the overflow participants. But basically what we were able to do there was they took a live survey at the beginning to be able to give their initial feelings about the area, what they thought about the current state, what they wanted to see in the future, to kind of really warm up and start the conversation. And then we went into breakout sessions in small groups to go into more detail of different themes, including like open space, kind of what kind of development you want to see. If you want to see mixed use, you want to see residential, you want to see more commercial. And then at the end of that, we kind of reported out what the different themes are from the table. And honestly, it'll be very interesting to see how we consolidate all that. There were some, I would say, very different points of view. Some folks want to see a lot more green space. Some folks want to see more commercial. And then likely we need to find something in between in a happy middle ground. But basically the next public meeting is going to be in July.
July 22nd.
July 22nd, that's right. And that's where our consultant, Gamble and Associates, will be providing either 3 to 4 concepts that we can gather feedback from the residents. And then once we can get that feedback, the last meeting will be in September. I think it's September 15th.
September 23rd, according to the website.
September 23rd. That's right.
And this is going to become more important with the construction of the apartments at the old Kmart.
Yes. So I will say it's not going to be shaping Kmart. What Kmart
No,
is.
it's not shaping that. But there'll be more activity happening there, I think,
For sure.
with
Yes.
more people living there.
Yes. And right now there is at least one vacant property on Hyman's, for example. So we want to make sure that, and I know that the Hadjis is an area as well that's looking to be developed in the future as either mixed use, all residential, or I think that's still very in early stages, but we want to make sure that we have a lot of the resident input on what they want to see so that we can shape the zoning accordingly.
Okay. Let's get to budget.
Yeah,
Because it's the most wonderful time of the year.
for sure.
And the council has been having its budget workshops, so that those are relative to the city's budget as well as the capital improvement program. Mostly done with the workshops on the capital improvement program, correct?
Yes, those were the first 3 workshops we did. So we will have a little bit of wrap up before we go to the hearing on Wednesday. But in terms of like the in-depth discussions on the capital improvement program, we did that in the first 3 meetings.
Okay. And last year was the first year the capital improvement program was presented in the format that it was, where there was weighting and prioritization of certain projects rather than just a list of projects that were, before the city in the next 5 years.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
So this year, I imagine, is more of a refinement of that kind of process?
So on the prioritization criteria, the administration did maintain the same weighting and criteria for this year. I do expect that to be an area of debate on whether or not we want to continue refining that. The council had recommended a smaller list of factors. I think it was 4, rather than, I think it's on the order of 10 or 15. I'm not sure on the exact number. But that wasn't reflected in this version. So I expect that to be a topic of deliberation or debate around whether or not that should be modified. And at minimum, we are having a postmortem retrospective on the budget and CIP in July. And at a minimum, I do expect that to come up there because I think that's an area where we can continue to partner and figure out what the right balance is.
Okay. With the capital improvement program, a big chunk of that is around water infrastructure. How did that come through in the workshops around the capital improvement program?
So I will say a lot of the discussion, because we had the last ad hoc committee kind of deep diving a lot of the projects and the priority reflecting a lot of what the committee had recommended. A lot of the discussion was around, do we have all of the projects that we believe are priorities above the line versus below the line versus going
Above the line, below the line, meaning
so whether or not we're going to fund it within the 5-year outlook.
capital
versus
improvement program covers the
just 5
5-year period from
and
now forward.
that's an area of debate too. Should it be 5 years? Should it be 10 years? Should it be on that? I would argue that the above the line, below the line is somewhat arbitrary right now. Like if it's above 50% score, 50 score, it's above the line. If it's below 50, it's below the line.
You have to draw a line somewhere, though.
I would personally like to draw the line based on what we can afford, based on the funding source. So
Okay.
I think that's an area
That's fair.
we can explore after this one. I don't know that I'll be able to derive that independently. I think that's going to require a conversation between the administration and the council to figure out how we do that, because all the projects have a mix of different funding sources.
Along with the capital improvement program, it's budget season, and that's the annual budget that the city deals with. It's tax revenue, it's enterprise funds, it's the school budget, it's all of that. And you have one more hearing or workshop
On
Monday, and that covers social services.
Yeah, social services. So that'll
Meaning?
cover library, council of aging, and recreation and youth services.
Okay. There has been some discussion and I would say some controversy around the defunding of a position at the Council of Aging. Talk about that for a minute.
Yes, so the current budget is recommending that we remove the outreach coordinator position from the Council of Aging budget. And the proposal from the administration is to split the time of the social services between the recreation and youth services and the Council of Aging.
Is that a position that already exists
Already exists, correct?
at Recreation and Youth Services?
That's right.
Okay.
But what's not well understood yet is whether or not that is a at level service, or if we're going to have a reduction of services as a result of that choice. For example, the outreach coordinator does support some things like Medicare or things that require a separate set of licensing. So I think that's going to be a part of the conversation around making sure if we're considering reducing these services, that we're doing it with eyes wide open, or we have a path to bridge it back to the full level of services, because a lot of our senior population does depend on the services that this outreach coordinator provides today.
I know that there have been some signature gathering efforts around keeping the outreach coordinator position at Council of Aging. That presents kind of a procedural issue when you get to the budget, because the budget that's been submitted is saying, okay, we're eliminating that position, but the council can't add anything to the budget. They can only cut it
Yeah.
when budget approval comes. So if there were, if the council sentiment was to maintain that position, how could that happen?
So the only way that I can think to approach that is you could cut to be able to make space for either part-time or full-time, and
Cut what?
cut that amount of money. I think it's around 53,000 to be able to give space when a supplemental budget, which a supplemental budget is expected, either to react to the council cuts or to kind of adjust to any unforeseen expenses that were learned between when the budget was submitted and when we need to finalize the tax rate. So one approach that could be presented is around cutting to be able to give enough headroom to be able to introduce that position back in the supplemental budget. But ultimately, it's up to the administration to make that decision. We can't, to your point, we can't add anything, but we can certainly make our intentions very clear.
But you can make your intentions clear, and the administration can still not do what
Correct.
you maneuver to try and accomplish.
Yes, it's ultimately up to the discretion of the administration.
All right. Do you have any sense as to where the council might go on that?
So I think I'll have a better sense after Monday when we discuss that position in more
In the
detail.
workshop.
In the workshop. But given we haven't discussed it in detail, I don't really have a good sense of where the council sits on that.
Because the way it stands right now is there is the workshop on Monday. Monday is the 15th.
Yep.
And that's when department heads come in and meet with the council, and there's kind of a dialogue.
Yep.
And then on Wednesday, the 17th, is the big special budget and CIP hearing,
Yes.
where the council goes basically almost line by line through both documents and approves or cuts. On the CIP, they can rejigger,
And you can add.
and you can add in CIP.
Correct.
Because you're not appropriating any funds, you're not doing anything. It's just I don't want to say it's a wish list. It's more than a wish list, but it's less than a formal document like the
Yes.
budget.
I would say it's a list of trade-offs that we need to make on the priorities within the city. The ranking should ideally illustrate what trade-offs have been made. So I know I plan to add at least 3 projects to the CIP for consideration and prioritization as part of that overall list.
Do you want to tell us what they are?
Happy to. I've already said it out publicly in our workshops, but one is around a Low Street corridor feasibility and design study. So we have a number of new additions. Port Plaza is one, the Rec Center is another. And we have a number of neighborhoods. We have our hospital. We have multiple routes to school on that corridor. However, our approach to safety has been very much in specific increments of the corridor, and we don't necessarily have a full holistic plan around how we connect them from one to the other. And I know a lot of the residents in my ward are concerned about the safety, and they're within that 1.5 miles within the school. So unless they purchase a bus pass, the expectation is that they walk or ride to school. So we certainly need to improve the conditions so that they can do that safely.
Okay, that's first.
That's the first. The second one is around rehabilitation project for the Little River Trail. So this is a parcel that is somewhat gone in a bit of disrepair, as it's not a park, and it's not technically designated as an open space, but so there's no responsible party for ongoing maintenance. So this would be a one-time project using CPA funds to basically get it to at a satisfactory level of maintenance. There's a lot of tree maintenance that could be done. There's a broken lookout tower that needs to be addressed. There's a bunch of trail maintenance that needs to be addressed as well. So that's the intention of that project.
You talked about CPA funds. Those funds have already been allocated, though, haven't
This
they?
would be for FY27.
Okay.
Yes.
And just for people who may not know, CPA is Community Preservation Act.
Correct.
And there's a separate committee that accepts all the applications for Community Preservation Act grants.
Yes.
And they make a recommendation to the council to say, okay, we think these X number of projects should be funded at these levels of funding. And then the council is actually the final say on what projects get funded and by how much.
That's correct.
Okay. The third area?
So the third one is the Hale Street Shared Use Pathway West. So as part of the last CPA round, we approved design funding for Hale Street East, and that's really from the Doe Run area of by Hale Street to Low Street, which is a very small segment. And when this project was originally presented, it was for the full corridor. So my intention there is to be able to fund the remaining part of the Hale Street shared use pathway design to be able to connect a lot of our neighborhoods in the Turkey Hill area to Low Street in a safe manner. That said, the challenge with that part of the Hale Street shared use pathway is it's all wetlands. So there is it's going to be a complicated project. It's going to require design. But and my intention there as well is the CIPs should be a list of things that we're prioritizing, a list of things that are being considered against other projects. It's not on the list as that phase plan, even though the desire from the administration would be to phase that project. So this is just to add the second phase for consideration.
Okay. Those are 3 good projects, by the way.
Thank you.
The shared use path on Hale Street, that was something that Councilor McCauley was pretty passionate about.
Yes, he was.
The late Councilor McCauley. You said a word a little while ago that I don't often hear when I talk with councilors or the administration about budget, and you said what we can afford.
Yes.
talk about that for a minute, because we're in a time when property taxes, the average property tax bill is in excess of $10,000, maybe in excess of $11,000. I'm not sure. And we don't often hear the word afford or affordability come into budget discussions.
Yes. So I think one thing going into this budget, I think what we can anticipate that is costs will continue to rise, and there's always the risk of state and federal funding not coming in as expected. And I think the only thing we can be certain about funding is that it's uncertain. So for me, I want to make sure going into this year and moving forward that we're giving ourselves enough headroom for anticipated rising costs. So we know that insurance is going to increase next year, and our budget and our school budget are right at the line with minimal, at the budget level, minimal excess levy capacity. And so that is something I'm concerned and want to make sure that we are kind of setting ourselves on the path so that we're not a few years down the line going to a budget override situation or not anticipating cuts to services. So right now we have been, or our approach in the past has been taxing to the limit at 2.5%. Perhaps we need to consider going to 2.25 to be able to give ourselves that headroom and to be able to tap into that capacity in the future so that we can curb against a potential override, because our residents are already struggling with the current taxes. So to even entertain communicating an override in the future, I'm not sure there'd be a lot of appetite for that.
I would tend to agree with you. And what people, what I think is forgotten sometimes is when you do tax to the levy capacity, that's permanent. The next year, you can say, oh, well, we'll only go to 2% next year. But that 2.5% from the previous year is already built in and kind of compounds on following budgets.
That's right.
Is there any? We're right at the hour. Is there anything you want to mention before we wrap? Oh, I do want to say, the big budget hearing is June 15th, Wednesday.
17th.
I'm sorry, 17th. It's a long meeting.
Yes.
I went last year. It was 4 hours. If you're at all interested, listeners, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you,
I'll be
Lisa. Yes, you'll be there. If you're at all interested in how the sausage gets made and what goes into your property tax bill, there's a workshop on Monday. You can zoom in, go to the cityofnewburyport.com, go to the calendar, the public calendar, and all the instructions on how to zoom into the meetings are there. Go to the meeting on Wednesday. It's I hear a lot of people complain about their property tax bill. I hear a lot of consternation about, oh, there's a lot of waste, there's this, there's that. Go and watch what happens, how this one meeting that really affects property tax bills for the next year. The year goes from July 1 to June 30. So that's fiscal 27. I'm frequently disheartened by the lack of interest that is demonstrated by residents in this, one of the most important things that city government does, the annual budget. That's my little spiel on that. Do you have anything to mention before we wrap up?
The only other thing I would mention is that we are reinstating an ad hoc committee on the water infrastructure, and that's starting on June 22nd. We'll be meeting from 5 to 7 before the city council meetings.
Are you on the ad hoc committee?
I'm the chair of the ad hoc committee.
Ah, very good.
So our focus for this 2.0 committee is really around the project governance and the financing. So to your point around what can we afford, that's a conversation we need to have with regards to the water projects, as they are all big ticket. There are no small ticket water projects. So talking about how the projects, how much they cost, when the cost maturity changes as we mature the design, and kind of what risks are we retiring with how it relates to climate resiliency, water quality, regulatory and compliance. as it relates to the projects.
You talk about water quality. It could be water availability.
Yes.
This is a big project that's coming at us like a speeding train. We can't avoid it. It's something needs to be done. And again, be aware of what's happening in your city government. It's important stuff that affects us all. So I would like everyone to go out today and cheer on Pete as he runs the Derek Hines Flag Day 5K. Pete and his whole family will be running. So, Pete, hydrate.
Hydrate.
Lisa Medina Smith, thank you for coming in. You're a city councilor now. We'll have you back sometime soon.
Thanks so much.
And that's it for this week's video live stream of Local Pulse. And if you can't tell, I'm excited about the video aspect of this, then you're not paying attention. That's it for this week, and I will talk to you next week.